everyone. Let's begin our class tonight on this wonderful book. We've all been enjoying My Heart Remembers. Let's begin with a prayer. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, dearest friend, beloved God, Lord Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna, Lahiri Mahashaya, Swami Shri Yukteswar, beloved Guru, Paramhansa Yogananda, saints of all religions, friend and guide, Swami Kriyananda. Help us to be newly inspired in our discipleship to God and our Gurus. Help us to relax into the nature of our own individual discipleship, the unique path that God is calling us to walk. Help us to attune ourselves to this life of a great disciple, Narayani, to the power of her sweetness, to the courage that she lives, and to her very sensitive way of attuning herself to her divine teacher. Be with us as we chant and meditate, diving deep inside, awakening our own love for God and this path. We are your children. Bring us home. Om Shanti. Amen.
Tonight, one of the stories in Narayani's book is her being given her name by Swamiji, and her talking about how, having really tuned into this particular chant, by the time she got given her name, it was all very acceptable and very beautiful. But having really dove into this chant, attuning herself to this chant, helped her in that process of being comfortable with a new Sanskrit name. Om Namo Narayana, 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 Om Narayana. Let's meditate for 7 or 8 minutes. Okay, here we go, week 2.
So, some of you are just joining us for the first time this week. I encourage all of you to come as close as you can. We're kind of having it be a close-knit group, if you're comfortable.
We'll feel we're more part of your world and yours with ours that way. Thanks.
So this book, entitled My Heart Remembers, written by Narayani, who came onto this path in her mid-20s and met Swami Kriyananda. And as they say, the rest is history. She's now living in Assisi with her husband Shurjo after spending 5 years in India, in Mumbai, building up the work there, 6 years, in many dynamic and wonderful and joyful ways. Biraj and I had the great good fortune of being with them for
much of the last 3 years.
Much of the last 3 years, half or so of the last 3 years. So it's been a book study, so people read a little bit and people will be sharing some of their inspirations as we get into it a little more. My job is to start it by saying something or other, and so I'll do that, and then you can all jump in as the time comes. After our first week, which was last week, I was talking with some people who had read the book, and we were talking about, yes, it's so inspiring to watch this life of this young girl who met her teacher, recognized it in her heart, my king, she called him, recognition instantly, this is my spiritual teacher, and was able to just totally dedicate herself 100% in the direction of attuning herself to the words, many layers of outward. So the words, the music, first came music, then came words, and then came actions, and then came nuances of expression as we read this last week about her watching him as she was around him more and more. She was very shy, so she would sit in the back of the room and not talk to anybody. She also always was in a foreign country. She was in Italy with him when all she spoke was Spanish. She was in the US when all she spoke was Spanish, and then she was learning English. So much of her way of tuning into her teacher was vibrational. So she would absorb as much as she could of the vibrations and the consciousness that he had when he would teach, and people would weep with joy, they would weep with heart opening, they would feel so uplifted. The whole room, to have Swami Kriyananda standing in front of the room, many of us over the years would just be amazed how much we would all feel ourselves just lifted in consciousness into a higher joy and a greater love and just a higher state of consciousness. So that was all she was doing. Everything else had passed. She left her family. Later we learned that she sold what little bit of real estate she had to keep having the money to follow him around. She just knew, this is it for me. So as we were talking, we were saying, wow, look at all she did and overcame, and look at the challenges she faced, and she still faced them, and she still kept undeterred on her path to oneness with God through this saintly teacher. And we were talking, and we said, I don't think I could do that. I don't think I could do that. That looks pretty that looks so complete, so unchallenged in her focus. She just was completely riveted on that, every step of that path to get closer to that consciousness that her teacher had. And I thought, I don't think I could now either, when I was her age, I had the chance to be a nun for a while, and I lived in a trailer, and I had outward renunciation in ways that made me feel...
How big was your trailer?
Oh, is the kind that you used to put on the back of your car. It was 12 feet.
From here to where?
Probably to Rita. Yeah, it was
from
probably
here
to
to
Rita.
okay.
My bed was here, and there was a little thing. Anyway, it was heaven because it was like a cave, and I was serving at the Expanding Light, and people were coming and learning how to meditate, and we were all just in this wonderful flow of service and joy and high energy, and I was young, and I could do hours of seva. I felt tireless in the ability to just go and go and go, and then crash on my day off and have a seclusion, and then get up and go and go and go again. It was wonderful. So I hear her stories now, and I think, those were the days. But also, we all are here now in our discipleship with whatever number and gray hair and bodies and abilities and other responsibilities, family and job and whatever we are. We're all right here, right now, in our path to God. And what I feel about this class that's really nice is that she's such a good example of a sweet and humble devotee. She didn't come with a lot of bravado. She wasn't a great teacher or a great musician or somebody who was a great leader and, so much energy outwardly that everybody wanted to follow. She just started in the back of the room, just following her heart is how she named her book, My Heart Remembers. And specifically, she uses it because she recognized Swami Kriyananda as someone from her past lives, most probably, who... Did it drop again?
Did you lose it again?
I think it's on. Yeah, it's good. That she had a recognition of him the way you often hear. Any of us who came to Yogananda or read the autobiography of a yogi or went to a lecture by Asha or any of our good teachers at Ananda, that seems familiar. Many of us have had that. I know there's something in that that's true. I recognize it. It's not just a foreign thing I'm trying to... There was a sense of, for most of us that I've ever heard about, this feels like mine, Or at least this feels like the truth. And so we start from that place. And I always love what Swami Kriyananda said about the spiritual path. I've now on the spiritual path, how many?
39 years.
He's the number 39 years. And there are a few little things that I've had as touchstones to keep me going when it's not so easy or to just help me stay going and renew my inspiration. And one of them is really great. It's directional. The path to God is directional. So we will have times of, pilgrimage, soaring in inspiration, I'm one with God, bliss ninny times we call them, where you're just a bubble of bliss and nothing can stop you from feeling that bliss. And the worries go away. You don't even notice if you have any body pains. You're just lifted into this place, and we've all had some touches of that moment. And that's where we would like to stay because that feels like our home, that this is right. But until we have finished all of our karma, inevitably it dims a little bit, and then we come to the practical realities or whatever it is, and then we also come to the hard challenges, and we find ourselves not so elevated as we were before, and wondering if after 39 years I still have these moments, what can I do better? So it's the opportunities to renew our humility keep coming, I would say, as the path keeps unfolding. Divine Mother does not have a lack of appreciation for humility, so she really wants us to have a lot of chance to practice that. So the path, is like this for most of us. And I just find it so encouraging that for some of us, we have our own natures Some of us have a more bhakti nature, which is a feeling. You feel God, that's what keeps you going, is you love the joy, you love the feeling of love, and it's kind of that motivates you more than, the discipline of the mind and the truth and the laws and the rules and the techniques. Those are all important ways to awaken into the truth. And some people have that lead, and other people have the heart that guides them. And for those of us who have that, the Narayanis and any of us who do, we take great comfort in what Yogananda said, which is, you could be a jnana yogi, you could try that, but in this day and age, he said, I heartily recommend that you develop more devotion and get that bhakti spirit of an open heart where you feel God's love, because that can be a shortcut. You don't have to filter it through the mind if you can get it immediately through the heart. So he encouraged all of us to think more of Divine Mother than Heavenly Father, the judge. You did this, your karma's going to do that, and this is going to be like that. This is the way it is. These are the truths. And you're going to be in trouble if you break the law. All of this is true. And yet, we're not perfect children. So we run out and we get ourselves into mischief. And do we go to Dad? Now, Dad, please discipline me. Please. Please discipline me because I didn't get it right this time. No, probably don't do that if we're smart. We go to Mom and say, Mom, I'm sorry, I blew it, and this horrible mess, how can we get out of it? How can you help me? And Mother goes, well, it's all right. I love you. You're my child. You're a beautiful soul. You have all these qualities that are good. Let's get back on the good part. Let's see what we can get you going. Your direction just needs to shift a little bit here. Let's take you to a camp to get away from the bad guys. Or, mothers find ways, don't they? And Yogananda said, go to God as the mother, because it can be very fast that way. I wanted to talk about her sweetness and about directional, because we all are not in that age where she is right now, not in that particular incarnation where, she recognized Swami and traveled the world and that became her whole reality. And yet she has qualities that each of us has and that we can encourage and foster and maybe even try on if it's a new quality that you don't have. One of them was, again, just humility. The other one was sweetness, kindness, willingness, to just do the next thing that's on our path. And we keep coming around to these. These are the qualities of discipleship that, however many incarnations we've been seeking God, I'm sure we've been encouraged to practice them. And we've been, when we have practiced them, we've probably felt a little closer to God. The more we can be unconditionally loving or unconditionally kind or a little bit less personal about how people treat us. One of the challenges Narayani had to come up against was being new on the scene where everyone around her, because everyone around Swami, and she was right in that nucleus of his world, had been with him a long time, long-standing relationships, all of them older disciples, great disciples. And, she was the shy young one who felt unworthy to be in the company and misunderstood often in her silence and challenged by, and yet Swami would say, come to India, or come to the US, or come, I hope you'll sit at my table, come. And she would be very embarrassed, but she would listen to him. She would say, yes, I will come. I remember there was one time when I was working at Earth Song, which was our cafe, and I was waitressing, which is not something I ever had planned to do. And we were short-staffed most of the time, and so we'd carry heavy things, and I was doing that, and I had injured my back as I was dashing around with all these heavy plates. And so I was out from work for a time, just trying to go to the doctor and get my back healed. And there was a satsang at the Crystal Hermitage where Swamiji was going to speak, and I thought, well, I can't really lift these things anymore right now, and I'm supposed to be resting, but I can't miss Swami satsang, so I'm just going to go. And I'll hide in the corner. I'll lay down if I have to. I'll just go. So I went, and he was sitting. For those of you who know the Crystal Hermitage, there's 2 layers down where he usually would sit. And then for smaller gatherings, sometimes he would sit up in a chair next to the piano on the second tier of levels. So he was seated in that chair, and people were all around him. I think it might have been a small birthday thing. I don't remember the occasion, but it was very sweet and kind of intimate. And I sort of, tucked in the back and thought, I'll just be quiet here. And he saw me coming and he said, "Oh, come up here," he said. "Sit in my chair." Sit, and so he's going to get up and give me his chair. Like, this was like mind-blowing. But what do you say, No, thank you, Does that seem like a very nice thing to do when the host says, invites you to, and I just went, I can't think about this. I don't know what it means or doesn't mean, but I'm just going to say yes. Just, there he is. So I went and I sat in his chair. For a little time, I don't know, he came back and got back in his chair, thank goodness, but I sat there for a little while. I just said, "Oh, this is Swami's chair. You wanted me to sit here? Okay, I'll just sit here." And sure enough, my back pain was gone. It was totally gone. So what was it? The chair? I don't know. But there was some combination of chair and Swamiji's helping me heal and not wanting to go, "Lo, you are healed." But, just sit in the chair, And then also I said yes to that. I mean, I could have said, "No, thank you, Swami, it's your chair. My goodness, how would I presume to sit in your, I could have gone there where my mind was leading me, but just, yes, sir, thank you. And there it was. So she had that spirit over and over and over again. "Yes, sir, I will show up. Yes, sir, I will. I'll try to make it happen. I'll do my best." And it just tended to work out time after time. And I've watched her life from when she came. We happened to be in India when she arrived in India. And I've watched her life as she said yes. Her energy has raised, her attunement has raised, her joy level, her magnetism, her ability to inspire others. It's just been this beautiful journey to behold. And much of it has been just, "Yes, Swami." And I was thinking about how do we, where we are, Swami's not in the body now, and, Narayani's over in Italy, so she can't be standing here telling us about every moment that they were together for that inspiration. But one of the things I found, and I can encourage, is Swami has all these talks on YouTube, and he has these Gita things on the Asta channel. So if you look up Swami Kriyananda Gita or Swami Kriyananda YouTube, there are lots of opportunities. He has these 12-minute things and 20-minute things and longer ones. And when I've been looking for inspiration or how can I attune myself more now that Swami's not in his body, the way I used to be able to when he would be in the front of the room and it would be just, like soaring effortlessly, how can I get some of that attunement back? So I find that if I watch, as Narayani reminded me, watch his face when he's doing those talks, stop them when you need to or want to. Tune in to his eyes. What is he really saying? The sound of his voice, nuances of really close absorption, not just, "Oh, interesting," or, that's true, I like that idea, but really open the heart and as if he really is speaking to us individually. He had that quality in the middle of in the big of a group for 300 people or however many people. You would feel that he was talking individually to you. because he had a way of including everyone in that consciousness and that joy and that wisdom that he was imparting, explaining, or sharing. So there are things that we can do, and if at the end of this class we've come up with any ideas, any new ways that we can try and say, look what happens when you're really in tune. I have had times when I was more in tune than other times. Maybe I could be more in tune if I, and then we fill in the blank. If I listen to Swami more, put his music on. Like Narayani would listen to his music 24 hours a day. When he asked her to listen to his music, it will heal you. And she was healed by thyroid cancer. She was doing allopathic as well, but she was totally healed, and she feels the music was the main factor. Different ways. And I might not go much more.
Could you see what you can pull out of the times that Narayani, during this section of the book, keeps saying, someone tried to stop me from using my open-hearted attunement to Swamiji. She kept running into people who would say, you're doing it wrong, don't do that, don't follow him, settle in a community, don't go to him unless he asks for a head rub, those kinds of things. Can you say anything about how do we respond to negative influences when we're trying to attune ourselves?
Well, I thought she'd had a good example of the way she did that, just the way Swami would have encouraged us to do it. You have an inspiration, you feel a direction is trying to happen, but you don't just jump off and do it without listening to anybody else. But you also don't just go off and say, I have this, and then somebody says no, and you immediately take that as the answer, unless it feels in tune with your own heart's attunement and direction. So she had to make a choice. In each case, she considered, like maybe they have a point. It could be right. I could see why they would say that. Maybe that's true. And sometimes she would back herself off, and she held herself back for a while from being around Swami because she thought maybe they were seeing something she wasn't. And she wanted to honor the fact that they might have a better idea, and she had gotten it wrong. So she held herself back, and she felt miserable. And she felt out of tune with Swami. And she felt that it was wrong for her to be doing that. She just didn't feel that alignment anymore with him. So then she stepped back into, he keeps inviting me, I'll just say yes. And when she stepped back into, my heart feels that he's calling it, it looks like it's an alignment here, and went forward, all the rest of it worked itself out, because it was hers to do, to follow these unusual ways that others couldn't see. But her heart knew that between herself and her spiritual teacher, this was something trying to happen. So it takes a lot of courage, We often, I look at some of you, you're young, and some of us are old, and wherever you are in life, there will be people who will say what you're doing isn't important. Don't waste your time with whatever it is, meditating, spending so much time at the Sangha. We get challenged. You choose a life of putting more time into God, and guess what? Maya says, oh, wait a minute, this one's getting away. We have to make it more interesting over here. We have to give them a raise and have more hours they have to work. We have to keep them in the game here, because that's Maya's job, is to just keep us coming back and back into the game. It's the game. And if we want to get away from the duality that is Maya and go more toward the unitive consciousness of oneness with God, we have to make choices. And sometimes it takes will. Sometimes sweet humility of just, I can do nothing else but love you, God, and say yes to what you ask me is one way. Sometimes it has to be a warrior's way, too. No, I will not let you influence me, because I know My heart knows this is getting me closer to God. So yeah, it's, there's the power of sweetness, which is a power. There's a power of courage, which is also a power. And there's a power of devotion. All of these aspects of discipleship help us continue to make progress, continue to find, as I was thinking of my friend and I talking, no, I couldn't be doing that right now, so where does that leave me? Well, if there's a little door that I can open a little bit wider to some inspiration that I've known or that could be possible, let me just do that. Let me just do that. And there's an appropriate response to every moment of our discipleship life. There's an appropriate response, and it is directional. So if we're feeling bad, we can feel less bad. If we're feeling less bad, we can feel a little better. We can feel good. We can feel great. We can feel bliss. And it's just, where am I? And how can I open the door for the more light to come in? How can I open it a little more? How can I start walking toward that light? How can I start saying yes more? And I don't know, we all have our things, our ways that Maya is really our great buddy. One of mine is confusion. I just get confused and I don't know. And I don't like not knowing. And so I get more confused because I don't know and I don't like not knowing. So then it's like, but wait a minute, I don't know and I don't like to not know. And so I want to know, but I can't know. And so, I go round and round with that confusion. What is the next thing to do is often my thing with Divine Mother, the next best thing, making choices. So inevitably, so far, I take time, try and figure it out. When it doesn't work, I make myself more unhappy that it isn't working. And finally, I reach a point after usually it's patience. We were talking about that earlier, patience on the path. I'm not patient for these things. When these confusions come, I'm not patient. So then I wrestle until I realize, okay, I just have to relax and just be patient. Then I'm more open, I'm less tense, I'm more receptive, and then suddenly some little hint of what is the right thing starts to come. And then if I act on it, it shows, yes, this was good. Yes, there's more light. Yes, it's more expansive. In a way, you can look at Narayani and think she has it easy. She's had it easy because Swami Kriyananda was asking her, yes, come follow me. Well, easy to trust him, very easy to trust him because of his consciousness that those who tuned in could feel, I want more of that, so if this is how I get it, I'll travel to India, I'll travel to the US, I'll learn a new language, I'll do whatever it is because look, it's right before me. This is the prize. This is how I could be. So who wouldn't want to say yes to that? Most of us don't have that karma where that magnetic teacher is in the flesh right in front of us. But we all have that teacher that is magnetically drawing us. Whatever our Ishtadeva or our favorite saint or our guru or our spiritual guides, whoever they are just as surely as Swamiji was looking, come sit next to me, Narayani, at the big banquet table. What? Come sit next to me, You seem to be like a daughter, he said. Well, we're all God's children. This is our story too. God looks at us and says, I think you're my daughter. Come on, come sit next to me at the banquet. Come with me to India. Come follow this path of light. Come be in the presence of this vibration and this consciousness. Because I see in you that's awakening, and I recognize in you that you have that because you're my daughter. And we all have that. And that's how God sees us. That's how Divine Mother sees us. You're my daughter. Come, let's do this together. We're getting invited all the time. And sometimes we're just too tired, to reply, RSVP, no thank you. maybe next week. I've got my plate full now, and there are those moments for sure, Thank you for asking, but, I just can't right now. But ask me again. I always want to leave that for seva over the years. In the beginning with a healthy body, I could say yes to just about everything that was asked, and that was really fun. And then I had to be discriminating. I couldn't say yes, and then I could say yes to less. But I would always say, thank you for asking, and think of me next time, as long as I could possibly serve in that area. So that willingness is a big part of it. So that could be it. Are we ready to do the next part?
There's one more thing I'd love for you to comment on. And it's not particularly out of the book, but it's one more technique that I know that I don't know whether Narayani used this. She didn't mention it, but you did. When Swami was alive, about every so often, and not very often, you would take your confusion, and what would you do with it when he was alive? When your spiritual guide was in the body, what did you do? When you just couldn't figure out what was next and what should you do?
I tried to be a good disciple and follow what I thought he would want to do and what Yogananda would want to do, which was you go inside, because the truth is in there somewhere, buried though it may be. The truth is in there, so I would really try my best to find the answer myself by praying and meditating and listening, going inside, feeling. I would try for probably longer than I should have, because Swami was still in the body and he was right there and he was only an email away, but I didn't want to bother him, and I didn't want to be that kind of disciple that doesn't try and stand up on their own 2 feet. So I would wrestle with it for 3 months or so, and finally I would, in surrender, okay, God, I don't know what to do now. Then I would write an email, and usually it would be short because he's a busy guy, he always was, and so I would say something, please, could you please pray for me that I get clarity on blah, 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 or this thing is happening and I wonder, is it a good idea, what do you think? Very short, and I'd send it. And as soon as I sent it, it was very interesting because I would start to know the answer before he wrote back. So the act of, it was like a physical way, like we have the fire ceremony, we give our karma into the fire. I would sort of give it into this email, and somehow it would clear the fog quite a bit. So it's good to be remembering that, because just offering it, maybe I'll even start, Dear Swami, here I am again. I'm confused and I don't know what's next. So could you pray for me? Because that's usually the connection I would ask him. He didn't tell people what to do. That really isn't usually the way of the teachers who have no ego anymore and they're just here to help us grow. They don't just, well, I think you should do this. And then you just follow that. No, because they wanted us to grow. They wanted us to use our intuition to attune ourselves to the right answer for us, by prayer, meditation, and going inside. So, but he was always there in my days of discipleship until he left the body, where I could send out that email, and I would do it maybe once every couple of years. Earlier, we wrote more when I was just beginning to clarify things, but more, I wrote less to ask, but and he would not write me a long email back. Well, I think you might consider this on the one hand, and on the other hand, none of that. I asked him how to get along with the person once. I was having a big struggle, and I'm sure it was many past lives, and it was just very painful. And it was just different ways of trying to get to God and different strengths, different ways of discipleship. And I was really struggling with this, and I wrote to him, Swamiji, can you help me know how to work with this person better? And knowing that I was the heart, feeling, nature, and this person was very keen, in their mind and seeing truth in that way. And he said, well, yes, use more nouns. That was the advice.
That was the advice.
Use more nouns. But here's the thing. If Swami said it, it was like a precious gem, to get a guidance from him like that, because he just didn't give out guidance, very much. He wanted us, as I say, to find out inside with meditation. But he'd give it to me, and I would seize upon that like my mantra. Every time I was with that person for a long time, it was probably a few years, I would focus on just the nouns. Just the nouns. None of this, the beauty of the misty morning of the poet in me loved to have the language and the flowery and the imagination and, all of the things that were my nature that I think pretty much turned this person off. And I was like, who is this,
Airhead,
or, flighty little, unserious person, because they're just so they just love the adjectives, and I just love the adjectives. I stand on the right to love adjectives by having the guru of Paramhansa Yogananda. Any of you have ever read his original writings? Join me, friends, in my feast of adjectives, and on, the all misery defying, all bliss inducing, all, joy, and then the phrases go on and on. I love that. And Swamiji's work in this world was much to bring it into, less of those, all right already, nobody wants to take the time to hear 5 sequential phrases about bliss before you get to just the word bliss. Well, I love the journey. Shopping, some people go from here to there, and boom, it's done. I like to look at the flowers and the textures and the colors, and then I don't buy anything. But I just love the journey of going, to the, the visual beauty of the world. So anyway, so it helped a lot that I followed his advice. It was just the right advice. I laughed about it. I have laughed about it so much over the years. 3 words that really changed my life.
How did you use that?
Well, whenever I was around that person or emailed back and forth or worked on a project or anything, I used mostly nouns. So, the dog walked across the street. Not the happy, joyful dog bounced and labored across the busy, trafficked street. My friend was like out of there by the time I, reached the point. She just didn't want to hear all that. So I just, tried to be more objective, more factual. I wouldn't think that I was going to now put on the hat and be more scientific. I think that would be, the hat would crumble. It wouldn't work for my head. But at least I could use more nouns. Just choose more nouns and less adjectives. So less the feeling nature and more objective, reality. The wall is blue, it needs painting tomorrow.
Did you get it right away when he said use more nouns? Did you get what that would do?
Not really, I didn't. It was pretty mysterious to me. It was very mysterious to me. What? I don't, but I'll try it. And as I tried it, then I saw, this is what he's doing. Because I was in a different way of communicating when I was doing that. And I was able to relate more mind to mind, and less heart to mind, which wasn't connecting. So, it was brilliant, And every time I would ask him, every couple of years, I'd get into a pickle that I just couldn't get myself out of, all, twisted up in a pretzel. And I would ask him something, and he would say, well, you have a tendency to, and then he would give me the thing, and I would know that's what I'm to work on next. Because he wasn't telling me, you have a tendency to be such a nice person, and you're so, he didn't go there. He was trying to give me a way to correct myself. You have a tendency to do this. And so in a long-term illness, which actually I've had for 30
35 years.
Anyway, it's a journey. But he said, don't be afraid to go to work if you're not feeling well. Because it was at a lower point when my body really was having trouble more than it has for years and years. It was having a really hard time just keeping going. And I was struggling with it, and sometimes it was just too much. So, but he gave me that, and it was like this little, that's my next step, you know? He didn't say, never let it stop you, don't, go climb to the top of the mountain. He didn't give me something unrealistic, but just don't be afraid to go to work if you're not feeling well. So I can do that, And I think if I look back from where I was and where I am now, I think it had a lot to do with the fact that I had 30 more years of discipleship that was more active, than it would have been if I had allowed that trajectory to go unchallenged. But anyway, enough about me. Why don't we go into talking about the book?
Thank you. All right. Well, those of you who brought your books with you, let's open them up and we'll turn the corner into discussion of really diving into what did Narayani say and how can we apply some of the things that she discovered through the book and or explained in the book, and how can we make use of some of those discoveries that she made. Let's turn first of all to page 59 if you've got the book with you. And let me find that. Let's see, where does it start? Oh yeah, let's go back to the last paragraph of 58. And Geertz, would you be so kind to read the next two paragraphs, the last paragraph of 58 and the first paragraph of 59? Is that okay?
Say what is the title of?
Should he have the microphone?
Oh, yes, that would help. I'm sorry, what was your question? Oh, you've got an easier version to find, yeah. Just hold that mic nice and close.
So during the time, that's it.
What?
You have to turn it on.
Do we have a button we have to turn on?
I think there's a...
There it is.
There you go.
Thanks.
During the time Swami was working on the Gita, I was amazed to see how from day to day he would manifest different aspects of the divine. Sometimes he was stillness itself. Other times the unconditional love of Divine Mother. On a different day it would be the ever-new bliss of God. Little by little, my purpose for going to his house changed from the study of the Gita to the study of Swami. I made it my practice to observe carefully every little thing he did. His gestures, expressions, interactions with others, the way he moved, the tone of his voice, all these became the object of my study. Eventually, I was able to perceive even the tiniest shifts in his energy and knew that what each meant in terms of his consciousness.
All right, let's start there with the discussion. What, as you read that or as you heard that tonight, here it was, Narayani had been going to his house daily and reading the manuscript, page by page that he was turning out. And all of a sudden, she thought she was studying the Gita. This was in her first few weeks of being in India. And all of a sudden, she had this realization of, what am I really doing here? Your comments, your thoughts, your response inside yourself about this interaction as a devotee, as a disciple. Chandra. Oh, yeah, you want to pass that over?
I was reminded of this passage when Lahari was talking about how we can watch Swami's videos now and look at his eyes and in the tone of, and listen to the tone of his voice, not just think about the words that he's saying. And it seems like it's not quite as good because it's not a person, but it's pretty close. And so I was thinking, well, I've never done anything like that, and it seems like a good way to attune to him.
Yeah. Not just, oh, I understand that concept, but another level of opening up. Yeah, right, good. Who else? Anything at all? Sure, okay.
Well, it reminds me of, Asha often says, but when she first said that Swami vibration would come and he would just paint some words on top of it. And, that was, I heard that probably 20 years ago. So it is really fun to just do that. Close your eyes and feel what's behind the words.
Yeah.
Which you can still do in his videos.
It's right, that's right. How did she put it? Something like, the words were merely carriers of the vibration. Or was it the other way around? But anyway, that the most important part of the message wasn't the words.
Right.
Yeah. Who else? Hey, you're down to not very much on that wrist.
I was struck by the earlier part of the paragraph where it seems that Swami was so able to be heart open, available to what he was experiencing, that it could actually show. Talks about, that he manifested different aspects of the divine, and, that was possible. What a gift that would be for someone to begin to sense that he was different today in that way than he was yesterday, or that he was the next day. And then the other thought I have was that she didn't speak English yet. She was learning. And earlier, I think in the book, she talks about, tuning into him, because that was what she could do. The trying to figure it out with the dictionary didn't really work. In fact, I think he told her...
Word by word, looking it up.
I think he told her not to bother with the dictionary at one point. But I just thought it was so amazingly sweet. And I'm sure this was just who Swamiji was. It wasn't like, I think I'll have this intention to show her how still I am today or how happy I am today. It just was who he was in the moment from his work. That consciousness that you could behold if you could tune into it.
Yeah. Thanks. Anybody else? One thing I remember Asha telling us a number of times is her question to him. I think she said it. This is paraphrasing anyway. Many times I have thought, boy, look how you, Swamiji, have grown over the 40 or 50 years she's known him. And then she said, oh, wait. Maybe, I guess what's really true is you were always the same you are now, and we just are experiencing more. And he said, yes. It's not like I had a similar kind of. It was a little less subtle, but it was just every time I read the Art and Science of Raja Yoga, which he wrote in 1975 or something. Every time I reread it, I go, wow, look what Swami knew way back then. But of course. Okay, let's jump. I'm going to throw one more passage out, and then it's up to you guys to guide it from here. Turn to page 118. Let's see, where does it start? I'm sorry. That's wrong. 109 would be even a better one. Okay. Let's see. Kamala Devi, would you mind reading for us? From the very top of the page, after dinner there was a concert. This was, where is this? Is this at, this is in Assisi. And there was a concert there at the Assisi Ananda Center. And I'd love for you to read the next 3 paragraphs.
After dinner, there was a concert. When Swamiji entered the temple to take his seat, I heard him call out, "Where's Narayani?" "I'm here, Swamiji," I called from my usual place in the back row. Pointing to the empty chair next to him, he said, "Please come and sit next to me." The choir performed Swami's oratorio, "Christ Lives." It describes the life of Christ, his teachings, death, and resurrection. For the 1.5-hour performance, I sat perfectly still with eyes closed, trying to feel what Swami was feeling as he listened to that divine music. I visualized a golden cord connecting my spiritual eye to his.
Go ahead and read one more paragraph.
His consciousness felt like a vast ocean, spreading out in all directions, and I, a little drop, was one with that ocean.
Let's just take a moment to just feel that, the vibration that Narayani was tuning into on that night. Okay. Your impressions of that first. Well, it wasn't her first, I guess, but it was the first time she heard the oratorio, and her experience sitting there next to Swamiji and what she was working with to help her connect herself with Swamiji. And what are your thoughts about what you heard in that passage?
I think it was just thrilling.
Do we have a mic somewhere? There it is.
I think it was just thrilling that she could do that. She could tune into that and have that experience that us mere mortals, or my mere mortal too.
Are we picking up the sound? Oh,
Yeah, that,
or is the button on? Is it on? Okay. Just closer to your mouth.
okay. It was stunning that she could experience this and go so deeply and really have a very deep supernatural experience of some sort.
Yeah.
What-
It took her breath away. I mean,
Yeah.
she had no idea that's what she was going to feel or experience, and yet
Yeah.
just listening to that music went, woo.
The oratorio is so profound,
Indeed.
exciting, and leads you places you didn't think you would.
Kamala Devi? Thank you, Padmini.
Lead you places you didn't think you could even.
Yeah. And lead you places that you didn't think you could go.
Exactly. Thank you. That's good.
It just strikes me that she took every opportunity in every situation to just open herself fully, and that willingness, that self-offering and kind of spiritual surrender to, every situation with him was her part of walking up to the door, and then Swami just pulled her through. So it's just telling me I gotta do my part to get to the door, and then they pull us through, And it's so simple, it's really so simple. She's just sitting there, but she took full advantage of that moment to spiritualize it. I mean, she didn't spiritualize it intentionally. She just opened to it, and it was spiritualized.
she opened to a possibility that many of us might miss, because we just, I don't know, I can't finish that sentence, but we don't always go and allow ourselves to be moved like it kept happening to her. Shamala, and then Amra.
I was struck by, and I don't know that this is correct, but it seemed that she wasn't focusing on the music at all. She was focusing on Swami. And I try to imagine me being present for the oratorio. And I know because of my past experiences that I would be deeply moved and uplifted by the oratorio music, and that Swami would be there one way or another for me, in that that's his music. But I didn't have that sense about this paragraph. It was all about her tuning into Swami, and I thought, what about the music? Well, Swami was experiencing his experience. She was experiencing Swami.
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
it's not confusing, but different.
Yeah, it's a different approach to how we often think that I've got to understand the spiritual path. She didn't ask that question. As she said, I'm no longer studying the Gita. My job is to be open to Swamiji's consciousness.
But I think what I was thinking was that I'm open to Swami's music, not that I'm studying it, that I'm experiencing Swami through his music. She's experiencing Swami. I don't know.
Yeah, I think you're right. Amra?
I thought it was amazing that she could remember these details and put it on paper for us, and that many of us and many people who will come and hear him speak will experience something like this, even though we don't consciously attune our spiritual eye to his spiritual eye, because that is his energy that's so expansive, and that God is working through him to draw souls to the light. And I honestly didn't get that far to read it this time. I've read this book before, but just hearing it tonight, it's like, yes, that's what we experienced around Swamiji, even though maybe I did draw my energy to the spiritual eye when I was near him, but I didn't consciously try to attune to his spiritual eye. But yes, that's what you experience when you're in the presence of a great soul, and she could put it into words that our hearts can remember. Yes, we did feel that.
Yeah,
but,
there you go.
I don't remember those kind of details very often. So I think it's a miracle and a great service to everyone that she could remember that kind of detail that will help us.
I've always been impressed by Asha's ability to, how did she remember every conversation? Have you noticed that, even 10 years later, when she tells the same story, it doesn't change. It's not like, for me, if I retell a story, details change and wording, vocabulary changes. I mean, she knows what he said, and it's it's burned into her soul that she can easily bring it back up. I don't know.
And Swami did say he would help her. So, obviously, he helped her to bring forth what would be of service to so many people.
That's true. Yeah. Anybody else on this one? Yeah. Hi, tell us your name again.
Dr. Jagdishwar. Dr. Jagdishwar.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you for this opportunity.
Do we have the?
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for
That's
this
better.
opportunity to be here.
Sure.
The way I would summarize these paragraphs that we have been reading is on oneness with nature, oneness with universe. here she is talking about her oneness with Swamiji.
Yeah, yeah.
I can share one experience of recent teaching that I was like in a school where I saw like very innocent manifestation of oneness by these little 5, 6, 7-year-old girls. There is a scientist by the name Dr. Jagdish Chandra Basu who has said plants can also feel, just like...
Oh, Bose. Yeah, okay. We call him Bose, but okay. Yeah, it's in our autobiography for Yogi. They talk about him a lot.
And the lesson which was, this session was for many weeks of teaching these students. We were teaching them about garden and nature and all that. And these two little girls, they picked up 2 leaves, fallen, like they were like large, big maple leaf. And they picked up, the way they picked up those leaves, they were asking my permission. I mean, they didn't have to. But they were so compassionate and they're so tender in their overall manner, like how she's talking about, oneness with Swamiji. Can we pick them up? And the way they picked them up, the 2 leaves, each one of them 1 leaf, as if they were now going to breathe life into them. And so that was like, during, whenever I teach, I have some experiences and I try to summarize. This was like one moment of truth for me.
Yes, yes.
I'm kind of relating that on oneness.
There you go. Thank you, Doctor. That's lovely. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, it's time for you to set the curriculum. What passage, was there one more comment? Oh, Pooja, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to share that I had a moment with Swamiji. He came to Laurelwood, remember? You all came that time.
To Laurelwood.
Yeah. And I had this dream that I will go see him. And I went, saw him. And he at one point asked me, that what do you want to say? I said, well, I want to sing a song. So I sang a song. The words of the song is, keep beloved Divine Mother secretly in your heart. Oh mind, you and I will see her and nobody else can see her. And in Bengali. And Swamiji sang a song in Bengali too. And Narayani was there. So Narayani
in the dream?
Was
in Laurelwood, near Portland,
there,
yes.
Swami was there, and he sang a song, and the fact that you were saying that in Swami's presence, the other reality just fall off.
No.
That is the only reality and his joy. And he was planting the seed in me that there is this song, Will That Day Come to Me, Ma? He was singing in Bengali. So there's the other realities just fall off. There's only one reality.
Yes, yes. Thank you. Okay, so it's up to you to fill the rest of the class now. What passage moved you as you were reading this week that you'd like to throw out? Short passage. I know I keep picking long passages, but short passages may be better at this stage. But if you've got one, throw it out, and we'll see how people respond to it. Anyone at all? Who's got one? Chandra, you got one? Okay. Want to pass her the mic? Can you remind us what page it is, for those of us that at least have the book?
It's on page 59.
59.
And it's when she was assigned the job to, job doesn't sound like a right word. She was asked to clean Swami's bedroom.
Okay. Which paragraph? First, second, or third? Second paragraph?
Yeah, that sounds like a good place to start.
Okay. You want to read it for us?
While vacuuming, dusting, and changing the sheets, I paid close attention to my thoughts. I knew Swamiji would feel the quality of energy I put into cleaning his room. I wanted him to feel my joy and gratitude for all that he was doing for me, so I made a point to chant or do japa throughout. And, you know, sometimes when I'm doing something, I'm frustrated, and so I'm feeling angry, and I'm also feeling guilty because I'm putting all this bad energy into what I'm doing. And it's almost like maybe other people don't want to touch it, you know. And so, anyway, I was just thinking about that. It's really important to maybe just stop, you know, if you can't have a good thought about something, and wait until you can before you start again.
I remember once when I was cooking dinner, and I was just in a grumpy mood, and a friend came by and said, "Why don't you let me do that? And you go do some deep breathing." And she was right. You know, I was putting bad juju into the food that I was preparing. So it's very true.
It never occurred to me until just now that I could stop, which I just need to do, you know, until I get back into get into a higher consciousness, so all those other thoughts that are lurking out there can't attach.
Yeah. Other thoughts, comments about that passage from anybody at all?
It's very important. You have to check. Well, go ahead.
I'm just really aware in a somewhat embarrassed way about how much of my doings is unconscious. You know, that ability to be present and really conscious in what you're doing, even in, you know, little things, making the bed, whatever, whether you're conscious about doing it for God or for someone else or even for yourself, that's quite a practice.
Yeah. Karma yoga is no, it's challenging. True karma yoga, you know, not doing it because you want something from what you're doing, but doing it for God, and that's a very advanced practice to get that right. Puja?
I just want to say that shloka, that karmanne bhadikaraste mahaphaleshu kadachana. It's very difficult to remember, but that is there.
Yeah, that's right. Chidambar had a comment.
Yeah, when you read this early in the book, you realize what a great soul she actually was.
To even ask that question of herself.
She's doing this, and we're struggling with it after 40 years.
It's true. It's true.
So, you know, there's something special about her. And so...
But this wasn't her first time around, I think.
Yeah, we can learn from her.
Yeah. Good. Anybody else? No? Okay. So, next passage. Who's got another one to throw out for the people's comments and discussion? Padmini, you got one? Many. Well, just, you know, go eeny, meeny, miny.
You picked my two favorites.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead to your third one then.
My third favorite.
What page would it be?
83, 84.
Okay, page 83 to start.
I don't quite remember what it was, but
That's all right, you'll find it. Starting on 83. Oh, this is when she was up at the meditation retreat, leading a big celebration, a big dinner.
yeah, she did so many great events for him, and she just wanted everything to be perfect for him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, every little detail. More concerned about Swami receiving his food than about my foot. Yeah, she hurt her foot. I asked someone to help me to the kitchen counter so I could finish his plate. Just then Swami walked into the kitchen. I was sitting with my foot on a chair under an ice pack. Someone must have told him that I had fallen, because he came straight to me and said, "This is one of the most inspiring events I've ever attended this summer. The energy is wonderful. I'm so sorry you had to pay for it with the price of a broken foot."
Yeah.
Yeah, she would have done anything for him. She would have done anything. Broken foot
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
a small thing to her, I think.
Yeah. Comments on that interaction with him as she put on that banquet for him and broke her foot in the process? Thoughts? Amra has a comment?
I just have a memory of her, even with the broken foot, it seemed like she was flying.
Were you at this
Yeah,
event?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. She was just so light and just, it seemed like she was levitating practically. I remember thinking, wow, she really hurt her foot. Shouldn't she rest her foot? But she just seemed like she was flying.
Yeah, wow. Did this happen to be a time that you were taking these?
It was at the meditation retreat.
And
And it was a group.
were you taking the month-long program?
No.
Oh, you just happened to be
I
there?
don't think so. I think this was just at like a SRW or,
Anyway, you were there.
yeah, there was I don't remember what the event was, but we were at the meditation retreat.
Mm-hmm. Sweet. Anybody else? Comments on that? I loved the next page where she said something like, I went to sing the music that we had prepared to give to Swamiji, and she said, it wasn't that my foot hurt too much, but I had to stop singing because I felt so much joy. Okay, another passage. We've got about 5-7 more minutes of however many passages we can fit in. Sharmila, you got one?
This is a short one on page 105.
105. Which paragraph?
And it's the third paragraph down.
Thank you.
She was thinking about the Nayaswami, the Brahmacharini vow. And she says that finally I came to the conclusion that I needn't worry about the future. She was worrying about whether to take the vow, what would happen in the future if she changed her mind, or what would happen. And she's saying, I finally came to the conclusion that I needn't worry about the future. All that mattered was now, and right now. I knew this vow was the next step in my relationship with God. And I just really personally related to that because I remember when that moment came, when that vow was available, and how it felt completely right to me, just as like some of the thoughts came later about, well, what if this, what if that? But at the time, it was like, it's now, it's clear, there's no question, and it's a real gift to remember that time. It's a special moment.
Thoughts? You got anything to add to the vow, the decision about vow? No? Cheddarbar? Cheddarbar does.
Yeah, I remember when we first heard about the Nayaswami order, and I looked around and I thought, who here can take it?
Say it again.
Who here can actually take this vow?
Uh-huh.
And I didn't see anybody.
This was 2009, right?
Yep. And then I found out David and Asha were taking the vow. And I thought, uh-oh. So
It's possible.
we're getting close there.
Real people could take this thing.
So I talked to them when they got back, and I said, what about this vow? And Asha said, well, we asked Swami, and she said, you.
He was pointing to Asha? Oh, you?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, that was a shock. And I thought, oh my God, I didn't sleep for a week.
Anybody else? Okay. Time for one more? Lahari, do you have one? No? Who's got the last one? You got one more?
I don't remember where it is.
All right, just remind us about it.
Where she was sitting with him, and he was relating to all the other people in the room, and he could understand them. He knew exactly what to say to them, how to approach them, and he just knew how to work with everybody and their different personalities and different ideas, and he could just, I don't know, surround him with his love. He just could do that, and she was amazed. And of course, that's what she wanted to learn to do.
Now that's an interesting comment.
Yeah.
Thank you. Did you hear the comment, the last sentence you said?
Oh, that's what she wanted to learn to do.
Exactly. Okay. On that note, let's get a last chant in and a little time of just inward reflection. King of the infinite, oh, the King of the infinite, I behold thee in samadhi, I behold thee in samadhi, in joy and in more joy, in thy light of mellow joy, in joy and in more joy, in thy light of mellow joy. O thou King of the infinite, O thou King of the infinite, I behold thee in samadhi, I behold thee in samadhi, in joy and in more joy, in thy light of mellow joy, in joy and in more joy, in thy light of mellow joy. O thou King of the infinite, O thou King of the infinite, I behold thee in samadhi, 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 in joy and in more joy, in thy light of mellow joy, in joy and in more joy, in thy light of mellow joy, in joy and in more joy, in thy light of mellow joy, in joy and in more joy, in thy light of mellow joy. Let's be in that joy for a few minutes.
And let's end by chanting Oms, asking that we be able to be channels of these blessings coming from the masters through Swamiji, Narayani, all the great souls at Ananda, and through us as we raise our hands and ask that the light go out to touch all hearts, minds, and souls. Oh.